What's going on? Before we jump into today's episode, I just wanted to let you know about our amazing summer special that we have taking place. It's an amazing time of the year, especially because everywhere it's starting to get nice out. Summer's finally here, and I know a lot of people just want to maintain the results that they've worked so hard for and also continue to see great results with all the amazing events that are coming up. So we're looking to take on 3 people at a discounted rate. These spots will go by quick, so as soon as you listen to this, all you have to do is message us with the keyword summer special to our Instagram, which is Colossus Fit, COLOSSUSFIT. Do not hesitate. Now let's jump right into the episode. Hey there, it's Coach Kyle here. I'm so excited to have you here, and I'm actually here sitting with my co-host and co-coach,
Josh. What's going on?
I'm still getting used to doing the intro myself. Josh did over 500 of them, and I'm still a little awkward, but we're just gonna roll with it. And, every Monday, our goal here is to get you super fired up, give you as much value as possible, give you quotes, give you things to think about, but above all, give you things that you can actually apply. When we created this podcast, we wanted to give you actionable tips and actionable things that can just make a difference in your journey. And I find so often people will listen to something and they'll never apply it. And we want to break down things so it actually makes sense and it's actually easier to just apply into your life. So yeah, we're going to start off with the first question, which is a great one. And this is from Ishmum. And we got it on Instagram a couple weeks ago when I did one of those Ask Me Anythings, and I didn't get to answer it on Instagram. So I wanted to jump into it here. The question is, how does one balance working 50 hours a week and lifting 6 times a week? So I thought this was a good question because although it's a very specific one, I love when I can take these kind of specific questions and break it down into something a little more general. I know a lot of people can't exactly relate to that because everyone's life situation is so different. So this individual I know specifically, I do not believe has any kids. So my answer for someone who has a couple of kids and someone who doesn't would be a little bit different. But the main thing I wanted to get across, whether you're working 30-hour weeks or 60-hour weeks, you have 3 kids, you have no kids, is just really sitting down and time blocking and prioritizing. So I know it sounds obviously easier than it actually may be, but one of the greatest things is when you sit down with your calendar and you figure out, when am I able to actually get this in, and you have your entire week planned out as best as possible. Now, last week I obviously said you have to kind of still prepare for the worst because I feel like it does help you during the tougher times where things come up and you have to navigate. But I will say, like, the easiest thing you can do is just time block and to figure out, when am I going to get this in? And once again, everyone's so different. There's going to be someone out there doing 4 workouts a week, some will do 6, some will do 3, but the main principle is when you sit down, let's say on a Sunday, you put everything in and you say, where can I actually fit this time in and actually make it work? I know a lot of people, it'd be that morning time, between the hours of, let's say, 6 and 7:30 or something like that. Give yourself a nice buffer to get your workout in, to shower, to get out to work, to do what you need to do. Once again, the answer would be different based off of your life and what you have going on. But I just want to talk about this and kind of go over that as like the biggest tip for someone who's struggling to fit something in, who's not sure when they're going to get it in. And so many people know they need to do this, but they don't. Like, the amount of people I've told, use a calendar, download an app, get something going here. Like, you'll be amazed at where your time goes. And a lot of people don't realize it because they don't use these calendars. And I'm a huge fan of Google Calendar because Google's, free. It's great. It's tried and true. It's not going anywhere. You can color code it. Even Josh is a big fan. Like, he'll sit there and, I can see he's planning out the week where he'll say, hey, so we got this going on here. Here's what's happening here. And we'll like have things going on where it's like you can see exactly where time's being used so you can navigate different obstacles in your life, which is always exciting. So that's my biggest answer there. And hopefully that helps in some way or another.
Yeah, some awesome answers there. Like, even for me, I like to break down these figures. So most workouts should be in and around an hour. And if you think about it, you got 24 hours in your day. Yes, I know a lot of that is attributed to sleep, but realistically, 1/24th of your day for like 4 to 6 times of the week, in my opinion, is very within reason. And if it's a priority, you'll find a way to get it done. I've in the past done full-time university. I work just about full-time hours and I still manage to get my work in. And once again, like Kyle said, there's exceptions every which way, whether you have kids, whether you have a super crazy schedule, maybe you're caring for your parents. Everyone will have something, but the reality is if you want to make this a priority, you will make it a priority. And I find one of the best things you can do is change your mindset from I have to I get to. So instead of looking at something you dread, thinking about it all day, you're like, oh, I have to get this done, I don't want to do this. That's not a fun way to approach it. And instead, if you're like, this is my time, and for me in there, I'll save all my favorite music. You can listen to an audiobook or a podcast if you want to go that route. And to me, like, that is my time to be in there, do some good breathing, get some physical exertion, especially when we're not doing as much physical activity. Getting in there, lifting some heavy things, breathing through it, it's like, it feels amazing. It's like therapy. It's relief. You're getting endorphins, and it actually is amazing to know you're doing something you like. You can also do some light socializing. Obviously, you don't want to be too heavy with it, but it can be your time just as much as anything else can be. And lately I've really analyzed like what relaxes me. As tempting as it can be to just watch TV, and TV can be absolutely amazing, watching an episode at the end of the night, but it can be tempting to say I'm just going to do nothing and watch 6 hours of TV, or I'm going to scroll Instagram for whatever it is. And like, once again, I think being more realistic with that and saying, hey, if I go work out for an hour, then watch my show for an hour, I'll feel better than watching back-to-back shows. And you'll have got some activity in. You'll appreciate that second show that much more, because you're not going to be thinking for 2 hours, man, I should have went to the gym. I should have got this done. And it's just so easy to be all woe is me. Look at your situation, say it's impossible, say it's different. This person has more time than me. That's why they can go. Like, but you need to be honest with yourself. If it's a priority, you will find a way to get it in and get it done. I love Kyle's calendar example. I also love the activity of actually recording what you do for a week and analyzing the junk time. So you can even just go 15 minutes by 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, however you want to do it. And I think you'd be amazed at how much time in your day can be wasted. And if you're being real with yourself, you will find the ability and the time to get it in. And obviously too, like, sometimes you got to see what's best for you. If truly the only gym is an hour away, the closest one, maybe you do need to invest in some home equipment. If you've been going to a gym you hate, but there's a better one like 5 minutes further, maybe it is worth spending a little more, signing up for that one you really like that actually is going to motivate you to get there. Like, having these things and really having these considerations on the front end will help you be a lot more consistent with the task. And this is something I'm really, really passionate about.
Yeah, and especially working off of this gentleman's example, obviously 24 hours in a day, let's say you're sleeping on an average of 8, everyone's hopefully getting close to that. Obviously not everyone can, but that's besides the point. Let's just say 8 hours. Work day will be around 10 hours for this individual. So, he had said 50 hours a week. I'm just going to assume a 5-day work week. So 10 hours each day. That obviously leaves you with still 6 hours in each day, like for whatever it is, obviously family time, socializing, reading, walking, lifting, doing whatever it is. And 6 hours is a lot of time. Like, if you were to just set a timer and be like, all right, 6 hours, like, I know sometimes it can go by super quick. Sometimes it can go by super slow, but it really does come down to the productivity. And that's why I love talking about productivity, not just because, not everyone has a business, not everyone needs to be always focused on deep work and just always optimizing. But at the same time, if you are struggling with it, it is crazy how poorly we can use our time. And I've noticed this. Like, there'd be times where I just go to make a post on Instagram, today's the day, and then 35 minutes goes by and I'm like, wait, I didn't actually just make this post. Like, wait, what's going on here? And that's why I really do believe in time blocking in the calendar and setting those reminders and calling yourself out, because using this example, once again, 6 hours for one person could be like, holy, I can get a million things done and just tackle everything and get a workout in and then still have dinner and with a family and do all this. And then 6 hours for another could be like, I just watched 4 episodes of something and haven't actually done much. But then that person will be the one who says, I don't have time to go to the gym. I don't have time to do anything. And a lot of times they'll be the ones complaining. And once again, I want to just mention, I got to put an asterisk here because I do know there are some different situations. There's some tough times. But if you're always just like, I can't do it and I can't make it work, you're never going to be able to, because you're not looking for a reason and you're not looking for that way to make it work. But anyways, great question. Hopefully these answers helped in whatever situation you're in. And I'm going to pass it off to Josh to tackle his quote, unless he has anything else.
Yeah, we love jumping into our first primary question, kind of our big question for the episode. And then if you've been around here for a long time, before this was Motivation Monday, it was Mailbox Monday, because we were answering your questions that you submit. And we get asked all the time, how can I submit a question? The best way to do that is over Instagram. Just DM us at ColossusFit, COLOSSUSFIT. Me and Kyle are very active in the DMs and we're there to help. So feel free to shoot us a message. And like I always like to say, if you have a question that's on your mind, even if you think it's dumb, other people likely do too. We want to hear it. We want to answer it. But within that too, we've always started with our quotes, some of our thoughts, sharing someone who's absolutely crushed at our program and seeing what we can learn and share from their successes. And we're going to go into our quotes now, and I'm going to jump into mine for this week. So my quote for this week is move toward the next thing, not away from the last thing. And I really like this quote because it's the same point of thought, but a very different energy. When you're moving away from something, you immediately feel negative. You immediately feel like, oh, I don't like that. Like I need to run away. I need to escape. It still tethers you to that past thing. So for instance, if you're trying to create a new identity and you're someone who's very overweight, one of the biggest mistakes people will make, and a study was done on this, and the people that lost the most weight are actually the people who created a new identity and saw them as a new version of ourselves. Whereas when we go into this with the aspect of like, I'm doing a diet, I'm doing a short-term thing, it makes you feel like you're just doing a short-term fix to the person you were, and you'll naturally revert to that. But you need to formulate a new identity and say, I'm this new, stronger person. I'm re-changing how I approach everything in my direction for it. So instead of moving away from being out of shape and unhealthy, move toward the next thing. So just say, I am a healthy person now. How can I get closer to that identity? What action can I take to make that happen? And I just think this change of mindset is a lot more empowering. And like this to me just really hit a light. And I'm sure this will resonate with you as well. So once again, move toward the next thing, not away from the last thing.
Very well said. I'm glad Coach Josh shared that, and I'm just going to jump into my amazing quote for this week. It is, a healthy person has 1,000 wishes, a sick person only has one. So this really just gets me thinking about how important it is to be grateful for the things that we really do have. I know I talk a lot about gratitude, and it's something I really believe in, but even just like our overall health, we don't realize how amazing it is to have, just a healthy body, to have an able body, to have all these great things going on. I think usually it's when a sickness takes place, maybe an injury takes place, like then you really start to notice it. And just this example of like that person who is sick, like nothing else matters to them aside from their health in that current moment. Of course, that's the thing that they're wishing for, is to be healthy, to feel better, to not be injured. And I think it's just, first of all, an amazing quote to really get you thinking about gratitude, but also just an amazing quote to really get you thinking about another quote, which we talk about, is you have to make time for fitness, or eventually you have to make time for illness. And, it's one of those things that I feel like is so easy to put off until it's like that moment where you're like, holy, like what just happened? I'm really overweight, or I have diabetes, or, just some sort of sickness took place because I didn't prioritize it. I didn't take care of myself. I wasn't, showing the appreciation to my body and my mind and everything that I should have. So I thought this was a really good example. I feel like anytime that something goes on in my life, it makes me kind of realize, like, when something's taken away. Like a random example, my Wi-Fi was gone for like a week, and I never realized like how grateful I was to just have like functioning Wi-Fi every day to do the work like efficiently that I wanted to. And it's just one of those things that is just like, I was just hoping, like, I just need my Wi-Fi back. I need my internet. I can't even watch TV. I can't even do my work properly. I had to go to Starbucks. Anyway, so just a random small thing is appreciate the things you have and try to find ways to like recognize that. I like, there's a gratitude that I do every couple days, and it's like a 5-minute one, and it gets you to pay attention to each body part and be grateful for each part that you essentially have, right? And even the hands, I'm like, I never pay attention to what my hands do, and I'm like, these things have helped me so much with carrying things, with lifting things, and I'm very grateful for those things that we don't really actually think about. And this quote specifically got me thinking about that.
Incredibly well said. I mean, every time I'm sick, it's a reminder for me. And even that's why I just try to get in front of it. And even the cost of inaction, when you're not being in the gym, you're not taking care of yourself, you're offering more potential for you to have more harm down the line. And it's really tough, but a lot of people don't care about their health until they need to, and until it's too late. And you'll hear, I wish I took better care of myself when I was younger. I wish I didn't focus so much on work and my health. And I've used that quote in the past, where when you're young, you have a lot of time, not a lot of money, but a lot of health. And then as you get older, you'll have not a lot of time, not a lot of health, but you might have some more money, but it's not worth the trade-off of losing your health. So I think really making sure to make health a priority. You're obviously listening to the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, so I know you're already doing the right thing, but I think that is a fantastic reminder to really keep that at the forefront of your mind. But now we like to jump into our thoughts, so I know Kyle's got a few points to touch on here.
Yeah, the main thing was I was just listening to Chris Williamson talk to Lane Norton, and it got me thinking. It was like the first 10, 15 minutes of the episode, and Lane Norton was basically saying that a lot of people have a hard time kind of like accepting compliments and whatnot. He said it in a different way, but it really just got me thinking, because I never actually realized before listening to this, like how hard of a time some people have. And I think a lot of times it's because people don't feel like they deserve to be in the position they're in, or they don't realize how well they're actually doing. And so this is just a small little reminder, like, for those of you who are constantly showing up, you're working out, you're trying to be better, you're eating healthier, like, really show some appreciation to yourself for that. Like, give yourself, like, it's okay to take some time, give yourself a pat on the back and be proud of yourself. Like, even sometimes I'll give someone a compliment, or like, hey, you're crushing it. And it's funny because you get different remarks from people, but some people like, not as much as you, or, like, just not the types of responses that I would expect. If someone said, hey, you've been, like, you're looking jacked, or I'm like, yeah, thanks, I've been trying really hard. And like, I appreciate that. Right. Whereas like other people would kind of just be like, oh, I'm not feeling it. Like, there's usually a lot of like negative remarks within that. And I think it's just, once again, because you don't really believe that you deserve it, or because you don't realize the progress that you're making. And so it's just such a hard time, because I feel like you'll never win with that type of mindset. So being able to appreciate those wins, being able to, like, once again, slow down and be like, hey, like, I'm really proud of myself, reward yourself. And it doesn't even have to be reward yourself with anything, but just with some appreciation. And I feel like that way your mindset changes on your fitness journey. You start to appreciate more, you start to, realize the small wins, and it just allows you to build that momentum and success, versus if you're always someone who thinks that you're not doing the best, and you're, have a hard time accepting those compliments, you have a hard time celebrating. It's going to be a really tough journey, because this journey should be fun. It should be exciting. And especially for all of you that are actually doing such incredible things, but you're not seeing it, it's hard. And I see that very, very often, especially, once again, talking to so many of you awesome people in the DMs who are like, hey, I've been crushing it, but, and then there's always this like negativity involved, or there's just like, you don't realize it. And I'm like, I can see from a different perspective how well you're doing. And that's what's so cool about our online coaching, actually, is I'll have a lot of these conversations where, someone will fill out their spreadsheet perfectly. They hit their protein, they did their cardio, they went from like 3 workouts to 4, which is a huge gain already, but then they don't actually notice those accomplishments, and they'll say something maybe like, oh, well, and then like some negativity, like, oh, this week sucked, or whatever it is. And then I'm able to come in there and say, do you notice what's going on here? Like, the improvements you're making, here's where you started, here's where you're at now. And they'll oftentimes just like message me back, like, I didn't realize this, Kyle. Like, I had a few of these conversations recently. And anyways, that's the best part about the coaching, of course, is having that person who can notice those wins, who can appreciate them, who can be by your side. And I just want to go on this random rant because it's something I'm really passionate about. If you're looking to get one-on-one support, we will take care of you. Message us with the keyword summer special, and we will be happy to help.
Yeah, if you're not seeing the results you could be seeing, and week to week you feel like you're not moving there, it can be really discouraging, to Kyle's point. And knowing you have someone on your side who's making sure you're seeing progression, who's guiding you through the ups and downs of your journey, is so essential. So I'm really happy Kyle brought that up, and that is a fantastic segue into our client shout out. We love doing these because this is someone who is struggling just like you may be right now, and these are the tips they shared that they've really discovered as they've broken through that through our coaching. So who do we have this week, Kyle, and what can we learn from them?
Yeah, so we have Cam, who has been absolutely crushing it, lost 30 pounds. We've shared his journey in the past, kind of more so in the beginning phase, but the best part is he's keeping it up. He's still showing up, and that's one of the biggest things we can learn from him alone, is just, you got to keep going. I see so many people do such great work, and once again, we got to appreciate that. But then for some reason, maybe it's just they feel like they don't deserve the results, or life gets in the way, and then they fall off. And it's hard to see that, especially, once again, talking to all of you awesome people. We want you to see success and keep it. And one of his special, tricks here, even though it's not a secret or anything, has just been consistently investing in himself and consistently showing up. So yeah, I mean, to still make progress is incredible. 30 pounds down, built some shredded abs. He feels better than ever. And he wanted to build a physique that he felt confident in. And I truly believe, from the bottom of my heart, every single person deserves to feel their best in their own skin, no matter what. And the truth is that, you can't fake it. Like in this case, like he built the confidence from putting in that work, from showing up, from losing pounds, from losing body weight, body fat, and building high quality muscle. And there's no way to not feel happy with that because he's put in the work like consistently day after day. So amazing job, Cam. You know, obviously he didn't have to skip out on special events. He was able to enjoy summer. He's able to just keep building, which is what we're so happy to say. So once again, do not hesitate, reach out. Above all, we're super happy to see Cam crush it, and he's going to continue to crush it going forward. So great stuff there.
Shout out to Cam. And now we're going to go ahead and jump into our second question of the day, which is how do you get disciplined, from Samantha?
Yeah, I mean, really good question. I feel like we get asked like quite often how to become like motivated and whatnot. And I always say, you know, motivation just comes from being disciplined and whatnot. And, you know, as much as I'd like to lay out a million different tips and whatnot, and obviously having goals is great and having structure is amazing and everything that we had mentioned, a lot of building discipline just comes from like creating habits and consistently doing those habits. And I really wish there was like a formula where it's just like here's a step-by-step process on like how to become disciplined and you know, kind of keep doing the stuff that you know you should be doing. But the real main thing, and you know, I'll be fully honest with you, like there are times where it's just like I can feel myself like potentially losing a habit or, you know, wanting to go back one way or whatever, but I always catch myself because I know what's best for myself. But anyway, so a lot of it just comes down to doing something for a certain amount of time and just consistently showing up. And everyone will have different things that will help them out. Like Josh and myself, we have different checkpoints, right? So even every day for the last 10 years, we have some sort of trackers that we've utilized on this. It's called Google Keep. Anyways, it's just a little notepad, essentially, a little fancy notepad. And every day you wake up, you check the tracker, you see, okay, here are some things that, you know, once again, a lot of it you don't have to think about because we've done it for so many years. You know, I've got my meditation on there. I've got my morning walk. I've got my, you know, check this, check that, all that other stuff. So it's not like I have to check it and be like, oh, this is what I need to do. It's good to check off though. But for those people who are struggling to build that discipline, you might need to check it consistently. Oh, here's what I got to do. And I just find stuff like this is so powerful, especially if you have like a really, really busy life, like using the calendar, like we were talking about before, using some sort of checklist system or task system or something like that, just to allow you to build up that habit. Now it's something that we consistently use for like 8 years. Just like, okay, here are different things that I need to do. I always put things in my to-do list, and it's just like trying to never miss. You know, there will be a time where, you know, I don't get to it on a Sunday, or there's, you know, times where I don't fill out everything perfectly. But the best part is that it's still much better than it would be if I just like kind of winged everything and just didn't, you know, plug anything in at all. And especially for using the calendar, it's amazing because using that, I have my workouts set in every single week. Like it just automatically puts it in there. So when I check to see, oh, what am I doing today at 9:30? Oh, I'm going to the gym, right? So that's one of my biggest tips. But honestly, just have the goals that will push you. Hold yourself accountable. Of course, having accountability is the biggest thing. Like even having Josh here hold me accountable for so many different things helps and makes such a big difference. And it's hard not to succeed when you have people on your team helping you out. So that's my biggest thing. And I'm sure Josh has a lot as well.
Yeah, Kyle crushed that one. And I think his point about really scheduling and going back to that is so important because we used to aim to do the podcast kind of when we felt like it, but the chances of both of us really feel like podcasting, being in a set space to podcast, having the right environment. Instead, we know when we're going to do it. We film every Wednesday. We know where we're going to film. We kind of know a quick breakdown of the day, and even today was like a little bit of a different day or schedule of day because we know we're going to a different area, but we thought ahead and we really saw this as a non-negotiable. And recently I heard a quote that excellence and success often comes down to doing a lot of little things you may not feel like doing well, and I think that's an incredible way of looking at it. And the truth is, like, if you only rely on motivation, that's why we're always hitting discipline, you're going to get nowhere. And discipline is something that you can build out in time. It's something that you really understand. I'm sure the first day you started your job, it was like, oh, I got a drag there. It was so foreign. It was so different. But now I'm sure, like most of your schedules in life, you do them without really putting much thought into it. And you really just got to inject the positive behaviors and habits into your day to day just the same. So with the gym, when you do it consistently, I feel really thrown off when I don't work out now. Like it's just something I'm in a habit for. I'm always looking for high protein, healthy foods. I always like to lead with having a bunch of veggies. Like these are all great habits that have built as disciplines that have allowed me to have long-term success. And like Kyle said, having whatever works for you, the systems to lock you in, doing self-reflections, journaling, having accountability partners, doing these different things really do indeed go a long way. And I find that is the best metric for discipline. I also love the rule of never missing twice. I mentioned this before, but if you have one bad day, don't let it be two. Get right back on track. Don't allow yourself to fall off, because just as new habits can be learned, you can unlearn and break habits and create new poor ones by deviating too much from what you know works and what will indeed move you forward. So incredible answer by Kyle there. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, and I just want to say, like, there's been times in my life where I feel like I'm not disciplined, and I find that it's a lack of hunger and vision and motivation that leads to just not being disciplined. So for me personally, I mean, and it's hard because I know a lot of people aren't exactly on this page. Like there's a lot of things that may be holding you back, such as your job, the people around you. But I find that the reason I'm able to stay so disciplined is because of all the systems in place, but also just the mindset. So constantly injecting myself with motivational videos, podcasts, audiobooks, regular books, great people around me, the systems that I have, really clear goals that are going to push me, my vision board that I just created on my laptop, other goals. I think I've already said goals a few times, like all these different things. No matter what, if I wake up and I'm like, man, it was a bad sleep, if something goes on, all of these things compounded is what's going to help me consistently stay on track and build that discipline. And I find so many people struggle with the overall discipline because they're missing out on so many of those things that I just listed. And once again, on the hardest days, it's easier because it's like, well, I've set these big goals. I've got the people around me. I'm still meeting up with Josh and we got to get this workout done. Or I set this goal to reach this body fat for a DEXA scan. And, like for our podcast, we set these goals to help this many people and get this many listeners and get this many people on board with our coaching. Like it allows us to stay on track because we have all these systems and these goals and different things in place. And that's often one of the biggest things that people are missing is like, I know it's a lot of things there, but it could be even just one or two of them that you're missing: the systems, the people around you, the overall clear goals. That's another thing. There could be a lot, but I think if you take a look at all of those and figure out how you can build each one of those things that I listed up, it can make a big difference on your journey for sure.
All right. Into our third question for today. Any tips to stay on track with an upcoming road trip? I always have a hard time to make the right decisions and stay on track.
Yeah. We've done a few road trips, which is fun. I know for those of you listening, probably maybe you've heard we've done a few to Florida, and I don't know. I always have to give tips as well because a lot of our clients will drive to different parts. Sometimes anywhere from 7 to 24-hour road trips, and I find that these exactly aren't that hard, at least like for myself. I love what one of my clients recently said. He was just like, I know I'm not going to be moving much, so I'm really paying attention to that because essentially when you get bored, and that's one thing I find a lot, especially from one of my friends that came on the road trip, I found that he was getting so bored just sitting there that it was just kind of like, oh, I can every gas station grab something that you actually don't need. And I find that once again, one road trip won't exactly kill you, but if you build up these habits where you just are so used to not grabbing the right stuff and you just build up all these kind of habits, that's going to be what anytime you go on a couple-hour trip, it's like, oh, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to grab this unhealthy food and going to get no movement in, and just you can create some pretty bad habits that way. And people don't realize how easy it is to grab habits. If you're you go to a specific place and, you're going to the cottage a couple hours away and this is what you're always going to do that. So just something to always keep in mind. But honestly, it all comes down to planning. If I were to just give the biggest tip for most people, it would just be to plan as best as you can and to schedule as best as you can, because these things really have changed my life. I definitely am a pretty big planner, but when I sit down, I just try to think through things. I try to sit down with a notepad and think, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to stay on track? And then it only takes a few extra minutes. It's really not much extra work than going in with no game plan. And it always leaves me feeling way better knowing that there's a way to navigate it. But even for us, when we drove to Florida, we'd always, take a look at Google Maps, figure out, okay, where's the nearest place to stop that's actually healthier food, Josh brought a lunchbox on his way down, which I thought was awesome. He had a bunch of healthy snacks and protein bars. Like, there's a lot of different ways if you look for it. There's so many ways to stay on track, and a lot of it just comes down to the overall planning. But yeah, really, like, one big thing to keep in mind is like pay attention to the whole like boredom and hunger thing, because I think that's where a lot of people can be affected, especially on road trips and, watching a show or doing whatever. Cause you just like, if you're not doing a whole lot, like even on a plane, you might be sitting there and just like want to grab something, but like you're really probably not burning as many calories, especially if it's like a full day event. And you just want to grab a ton. You end up overeating, under moving, and then it just leaves you feeling pretty crappy, I guess you could say. But yeah, those are a few things on the top of my head for that question, and I'm sure Josh has some as well.
Yeah, fail to plan, plan to fail in a road trip is very much that. I just find it's easy to grab the worst option in advance and really suffer because of it, because obviously a lot of the quick and easy roadside things aren't going to be the highest quality food. One thing I really love to do is punch in the places I really want to go that I know are super healthy. So obviously like Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, and like kind of knowing I have that to look forward to. And I think that's a good compliment to Kyle's point about always wanting snacks and whatnot. Like for me, it's like, okay, if I can have my favorite lunch with Chipotle in 2 hours, I'll have a big lunch with side tortilla, get a ton of protein. I don't need a snack. It also helps the road trip go faster because like I know I'm going to the destination I really want, instead of pulling over and being like, oh, I got to figure out what to eat at Wendy's or Burger King or whatever it may be. And when you search on Google Maps, you can find like those quick detours, might only add 5 minutes. You can really schedule out from that. I really try to avoid getting breakfast too, because I do find breakfast from like these quick fast food places often aren't the best. And instead, I'll really just try and have like a bar, a protein shake. I know Kyle's been utilizing some of those in a pinch. Or even for me, I'll just bring the Greek yogurt from home and I'll kind of fill it in a Tupperware and put all the things I want. And I know I have a good high protein breakfast to start the day. And I find when you start strong, it's really easy to finish strong. And just the same, when you start poorly, it's really easy to finish poorly. So putting yourself in that great position to really have a jump and be in a position where you want to continue to see success goes a long way. And like Kyle said, you're not going to constantly make yourself happy. Like it's real easy to pull over at every gas station and be like, I need to buy candy, I need to get this specific food, and like always be needing something. But the calories will stack up real quick. This is a day, especially if you're on a long road trip where you're not moving whatsoever, and it's going to be a negative. And there's a million fun things you could get at gas stations and whatnot, but it's better to avoid it if you can. And instead, I find this a really easy time to hit your goals and really just appreciate the views and listening to some good content and avoiding those temptations of just always needing something, because you're going to end up feeling worse and you're just going to try to solve your happiness by eating every sweet thing at every stop. And it's not going to help you out.
Yeah, I do really feel like people have a hard time with the whole scheduling and planning, because life is busy, and to take those extra few minutes, it may seem like, oh, I'll figure it out as the time comes. And I get there is that argument to figure it out, and there's no problem to be able to navigate. But I find that those who say they'll figure it out or they'll navigate or whatever end up just like kind of making the worst decisions because they don't really have a game plan, right? So I always find like when I look at these things, I'm sitting down like preparing for a trip or preparing for something or a special event, even like, going out to a bachelor party or going out to something where I know the food's gonna be higher. That extra upfront work of just like sitting there, putting into my Fitness Pal, maybe planning a few things, grabbing a few snacks that I know would be helpful to hit my protein, to save my calories. It ends up saving me a lot of extra work down the road because it's simple. It's just, I've thought about it and then boom, I can just act. Whereas a lot of times people will spend no time up front, but then they have to spend more time acting and figuring out along the way. And then it ends up just being the worst decision, but also you spend the same amount of time, if that makes sense. So just wanted to share that with you. Super excited to take on a few more of you awesome people for the summer special. Do not hesitate. Send us a message to the keyword and make sure you're following us on Instagram. Our goal is to post at least 6 times a week on our feed, daily stories, and just give you as much value as physically possible because we want to see you all become fit, healthy, and happy. We're so happy for you to spend your time here, and we can't wait to see you in the next episode. Peace out.